Another mantra that fills the hadiths is Allah and His Apostle know best. Will you explain?
The above expression is repeated in the hadiths hundreds of times, implying and equating Muhammad with Allah in knowledge especially. In the Quran during the Meccan period, this mantra did not exist because it was towards the gods, Ar-Rahman or Allah alone, that his ideas were fixated. This changed after his arrival to Medina with his increasing political and military power, whereby the verses almost invariably associated Allah with his messenger. Muhammad's initial humility and humbleness were taken over by self-assertion and extreme arrogance, whereby he invariably linked his name to that of Allah, creating a subliminal twinning and an inseparable association in the minds of his impressionable, ignorant and gullible followers, as shown in only a few examples below. Sahih Muslim Hadith 6813, narrated by Abu Hurairah. We were in the company of Allah's Apostle and we heard a terrible sound. Thereupon Allah's Apostle said, "Do you know what sound is this?" We said, "Allah and His Apostle know best." Thereupon he said, "That is a stone which was thrown 70 years before in hell, and it has been constantly slipping down, and now it has reached its base." Sahih Muslim Hadith 790, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Holy Prophet said, "Do you know what Kawthar is?" We said, "Allah and His Messenger know best." The Holy Prophet said, "It, Kawthar, is a canal which my Lord the Exalted and Glorious has promised me, and there is an abundance of good in it." Sahih Muslim Hadith 1768, narrated by Ubay ibn Ka'b. Allah Messenger said, "O Abu al-Mundhir, do you know the verse from the book of Allah which according to you is the greatest?" I said, "Allah and His Apostle know best." He again said, "Abu al-Mundhir, do you know the verse from the book of Allah which according to you is the greatest?" I said, "Allah, there is no God but He, the living, the eternal." Thereupon he struck me on my breast and said, "My knowledge be pleasant for you, O Abdul Munzir." Al-Muwatta Hadith 13.4. The Messenger of Allah took the Subh prayer with us at Hudaybiyah after it had rained in the night. When he had finished, he went up to the people and said, "Do you know what your Lord has said?" They said, "Allah and His Messenger know best." Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith 7.850, narrated by Mu'ad bin Jabal. While I was riding behind the Prophet and between me and him there was only the back of the saddle, he said, "O Mu'ad." I replied, "Labbayka, O Allah's Apostle." He said, "Do you know what is Allah's right upon His slave?" I said, "Allah and His Apostle know best." He said, "Allah's right upon His slaves is that they should worship Him alone and not worship anything else besides Him." Then he proceeded for a while and then said, "O Mu'ad bin Jabal." I replied, "Labbayka, O Allah's Apostle." I said, "Do you know what is the right of the slaves upon Allah if they do that?" I replied, "Allah and His Apostle know best." He said, "The right of the slaves upon Allah is that He will not punish them if they do that." Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith 9.520, narrated by Abu Dahr. I entered the mosque while Allah's Apostle was sitting there. When the sun had set, the Prophet said, "O Abu Dahr, do you know where this sun goes?" I said, "Allah and His Apostle know best." He said, "It goes and asks permission to prostrate, and it is allowed, as if being ordered to return once it came, then it will rise from the west." Al-Tirmidhi Hadith 259, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah Messenger said, "Do you know who is most generous?" They said, "Allah and His Messenger know best." Whereupon he said, "Allah is the most generous. Then I am most generous to mankind. And the most generous people after me would be those who will acquire knowledge and then disseminate it." Since neither Allah nor Gabriel ever addressed the followers of Muhammad, they, the gullible, superstitious and ignorant, had no choice but to accept Muhammad's statements as true, which of course they were not. The proofs that Muhammad was deceiving and betraying the trust of his followers are obvious from the very fact that his statements are totally self-serving and bereft of any logic, facts or knowledge. Muhammad is equal to Allah since Muhammad knows what Allah knows.